everybody, it's Sharon with Threshold Homestead. Today, finally, at last, I am going to share my recipe or my process to begin a sourdough starter. Now, the thing that's special about my sourdough starter is that it is gluten-free, and I hope to make gluten-free bread with it. I've already made pancakes and I hope to make rolls with it. Anything that you can make with normal glutinous flour, I hope to be able to make those types of breads with this recipe. Now, I tried about a year ago. A friend of mine had a video and she suggested maybe you could try starting this sourdough with a gluten-free flour, and I thought, I should try that. And I tried two different flours at the same time because I wanted to see the process and see which one became filled with the wild yeast first, or had an active wild yeast first. And in the beginning, they both started bubbling, but when I tried to make the gluten-free bread with it, it was a fail. The bread was dense, it never rose. It had a good taste to it, but it wasn't that familiar bread that I remember making for my family years ago. Now, recently, I tried another recipe, and it seemed to be doing okay too. It had the sour smell to it, but it just wasn't giving me that rise that normal sourdough will give you after you feed it. So I knew it wasn't going to be a good recipe. So I scratched that. The last day that I had given it, I pulled it out and it had mold growing on top. So that was definitely a fail. And you know, I was kind of discouraged, but then I'm just that kind of person who says, I'm just going to be discouraged just for a minute. I will figure this out. And number one, I'm going to follow my instinct on this. So I'm going to try to recreate what I did in that hurried moment where I decided not to give up. And I'm going to share that with you today. Now, the first thing I'm going to share with you is the same thing I shared in my other video where I was beginning the starter process. I'm going to go back and label it part 1, fail. And then hopefully this is going to be part 2, success. But I have already had success with this flour. I bought it just kind of like on a whim because I was pulling out the normal flour that I purchased to make biscuits and other doughy type products, and this was beside it, and I thought, well, you know, I'll try both. So I got a couple bags of this, and it is the Walmart Great Value all-purpose flour, and it is gluten-free. So you know, I made pancakes with it. Pancakes tasted just like regular pancakes to me, and they were fluffy. They were just really good. And so I tried biscuits with it because I do miss my biscuits. You know, what is home cooking if you can't have a good old biscuit? To me, it's not. And I pretty much followed the recipe on the back of the bag for the biscuits. I may have done a few things differently based on how I've always made biscuits, but for the most part, I think it's the flour that made it successful. Now, I used this flour in my sourdough. Let me get that. Now, I did discard quite a bit last night and put it in the refrigerator, but I don't know if you can see this or not, but this flour has the holes in it. I hope you can see that. I'm gonna try to look back here. I think you can. It has the holes in it, so, you know, to me, that means that wild yeast is working and it's feeding on, you know, the flour that I gave it yesterday. I also have another one here that I'm keeping for a friend of mine, for her to try in some of her recipes. And I've got it covered with just a piece of, I think they call them flat squares. Bought a bunch of them a while back to use for a project. And since they were already cut, they were the perfect size for this. I put it on top, and I put a rubber band around it to keep any you know, insects out of it, flies, gnats, you name it, fruit flies out of it, because they will be attracted to this, and that will ruin your sourdough starter. So if you can just keep that on, it needs to be breathable so that it can capture the wild yeast out of the air. And then, now this is mine that I have already, you know, used. I did make a batch of pancake mix, and I had one this morning, and it was delicious. It was light and fluffy. I really couldn't tell that it was sourdough, so that also tells me that this needs a little bit longer before I try to make the bread with it. So I'll be feeding this shortly. I think I have only been feeding it once a day, because right now that's all I need. And as long as it has the bubbles in it, then that means it's a viable working yeast. Now, what I did, we'll just cut to the chase here. I'm going to get some ingredients together, and go ahead and get everything measured out and put this together for you guys. I'll be right back. Okay, everybody, I am back. I've got everything laid out here that I'm going to need to get this recipe put together. I have a half-gallon jar here that I have been using. I think I'm going to be getting a larger jar soon that's just for sourdough bread starter. And as you can see, this starter does not take very many ingredients. I have the gluten-free flour, I have filtered water, and I have some raw honey. And this raw honey is local. I have a friend who keeps bees, and he wasn't sure if he was going to have enough honey to share this year, but he reached out to me and said, "Hey, are you interested?" And I said, "Well, of course I am." So I have a good stock of the honey, and I'm just going to go ahead and put this together for you guys so that you can see, and I will give you updates on how this particular one comes out. And I mean, I have no doubt that it will be fine. And I'll keep you guys posted either on Instagram, or I may do a couple of updates on this video series. Now, I will have a playlist on my YouTube channel, and I'm gonna link all of these videos that have to do with the gluten-free sourdough starter and recipes that I make using it in that one playlist. So keep your eye out for that, and we'll go from there. Now, I'm going to put this flour in. I've got 1/2 cup flour, and again, that is gluten-free. And then I've got 1 cup of water, not distilled, but filtered water. 1 cup of filtered water. And then I'm going to get 1 tablespoon of this raw honey. Now, this was just, I went out on a whim and I said, I am just going to come up with my own recipe, and I will do this. I'll keep trying until I figure out a way that I can make my own bread. Because I don't know about you guys, sometimes you can find good gluten-free bread in the store, and then other times you can't. And yes, That is good honey. Very good honey. Okay. Now I'll move that to the side. And the only thing you got to do now is stir it up. Give it a good stir. Now, my process after this first initial mixing, I did not add any more honey. And on day 2, once a day, I added 1/2 cup flour and 1/2 cup filtered water. Now, I've got this covering. I'm going to put on the top. And guys, this is not a pretty process. You know, if you want to wash your jar every day and risk losing your wild yeast, you know, that's a risk that you have to take. But I put this on the counter beside my stove. And you know, my stove is not on all the time, but generally it's a warm area. Right in front of the cabinet on that side, there's a vent. And that's where I kept it. And every day in the evening, normally when I'm fixing supper, I grab the jar, I take the cover off, I get my little funnel and put it on top, and I add my 1/2 cup flour and 1/2 cup filtered water. I did not add any more honey through the whole process. Day 2, it just looked like, you know, a gob of flour and water. And then day 3, same thing. Day 4, I thought I could smell a little bit of sourness, and I became hopeful, but it still wasn't bubbling. Like I thought I could see on the top. I thought I could see a couple bubbles, but I wasn't sure 100%. Day 5, and it was later in the evening, I glanced over beside my stove and I saw the bubbles. I saw the spaces in between the layers of flour, and I was so excited. I jumped up and down and clapped my hands and said, yay, I know it's working. So I fed it that night. I didn't discard on day 5, but then on day 6, it was getting kind of full, and I knew if I fed it, it was going to rise out of the jar. So I did discard, and that's when I started the second jar, because when I discard, I don't throw it away. Guys, when you discard and you're not ready to make something with that, get a bowl that has a lid on it that you can put in the refrigerator and keep adding your discard to, and then you'll always have something you can pull out of the fridge and make something with it. So, and we're going to find some things to make with what we discard. So there you go. I hope you guys like this recipe. If you do, hit the like button. And guys, please subscribe to my channel. If you are interested in the homestead, things that we are doing here, we've got a lot of plans coming up. We have very little free time, but we do what we can in that free time. And we'll try our best to give you the content that you like. I'll try to do 1 recipe a week and 1 video showing what we're doing out on the homestead. Remember, like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss any videos that we have coming up. Thank you guys for watching, and keep your eyes and ears open for future videos. I will usually update on Instagram and Facebook. I try to put it everywhere because, you know, we have to promote ourselves because of the new algorithm on all of these social medias now. But anyway, I do appreciate all of you who are subscribers, and I hope you'll continue to come back. I love you. May God bless you all. Thank you.